Hey y'all, from Spindle Mountain Mercantile, I am Heather. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Project number 1. In a minute I'll tell you how I got these shutters, but first I want to put a candelabra on it, but not this one. It just covers up too much. I have 2 of these shutters and I have 2 of the candelabras, so it works out perfect. That lever that opens and closes the shutters is in the way. Even if I put it on the back, it might scratch someone's wall, so I'm going to remove it. I just took out those staples, and the bar that has all the little loops in it is kind of cool. I want to make something with it. If y'all have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Next, I cleaned them off, but I realized they weren't so much dirty as they were stained. I like to think that the little old lady who had these for decades in her kitchen didn't have time to clean them because she was too busy cooking for that big happy family. We need to drill some pilot holes for the screws. To do that, make sure that your drill bit is just a little bit smaller than your screw, else your screw won't have anything to grab onto. Now the screws aren't what is going to keep this attached. For that, we're going to depend on the wood glue. Wood glue is really strong, but you have to make sure you use a vise or some way to hold your items together while it's drying. That's what the screws are for. My favorite wood glue is Gorilla brand. We usually buy ours at Harbor Freight, but sometimes if you buy it in bulk from Amazon, you can get a better price. In the description below, I will leave an Amazon link for Gorilla brand wood glue. If you buy anything from Amazon, when you use my link to get there, they will give me a small compensation, but it won't raise your price. Make sure your screws aren't longer than both pieces of wood put together. And I screwed mine in from the back, but if you want a more rustic look, you can put them in from the front. I would just use old screws for that, or maybe even old nails. My friend Lisa gave me these shutters. She was taking things out of her booth that just weren't selling, and she thought maybe I could do something fun to these and then I could sell them. She has more than one booth in different locations. If you are ever in the upstate and want to find some great stuff at really good prices, make sure to look her up. Her Facebook name is Southern Vintage Finds. Iron Orchid Designs transfer book Katharina has 8 pages of beautiful bouquets and birds. Begonias and roses are my favorite flowers, but I really like how these little yellow flowers are mixed with some kind of pine with the berries on it. Like most of the bouquets in this book, the yellow flowers have a match that is the mirrored opposite of them, so I'm going to put one on each candelabra. I thought it would be fun to show you what happens when I work in the house, so there's a lot of dog butt in this video today. I'm putting a little yellow candle holder on top of the candelabra, and I don't think you could see much of what's behind it, so I want the yellow to be up on the top part of the wood. For that, I had to cut off that extra little pine part, and I'll just put it in a different area. I realized too late I wanted to leave this little yellow flower there as well, so I'm just going to apply it to the wood, and then I'll put the rest of the transfer right up next to it as it would have been if I hadn't cut it at all. Applying the transfers is super easy. You just cut them to the size and shape you need them, and then put it on your clean object. Then you give it a little rub with your hand to give it an initial stick. Next, use that little plastic stick that comes with every IOD transfer book and use the flat end of it to rub the top of your transfer. Once you're done, gently pull back one corner with your other hand while you continue rubbing where it's pulling away from your object. If any of the transfer doesn't stick, simply lay back down the carrier sheet and rub it again. That should work unless maybe your object is dirty or maybe your paint is wet. Once the transfer is completely removed from the carrier sheet, use the carrier sheet to rub the entire surface of the transfer. That's called burnishing, and it just makes sure that every little bit and piece is absolutely adhered. Since the shutters had already been sealed, I only sealed where I put the transfer down. For that, I used Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover 2x Clear Matte. In the comments, let me know if you would have painted over those stains or if you would have left them so, like me, you could think about the stories that came with them. Another great tip from my sweet husband is when you have little tiny nails you can't hold with your fingers if you don't want to smash them, use needle nose pliers to hang on to them. That's what I did with these sawtooth picture hangers. My dad's been gone since 1993, and every time I see yellow, I think of him. Not just because it was his favorite color, but because when I was a kid, we played a lot of board games. Whether we were playing Parcheesi or Sorry, my dad always chose to be the yellow player. I think that's one of the reasons I like these candelabra shutters so very much. Project number 2. In my booth, these letter sorters sell very quickly, and I bought this one for only $2.50 on half price day. A couple of months ago, when IOD came out with their spring release, I thought I could have so much fun with it using ditzy blooms. I love paint inlays, and this book has 8 pages with 5 different solid designs and 1 page of smaller designs. Paint inlays are a lot like transfers, but instead of ink, they're made with paint. So when you put them on wet paint, that becomes part of your paint, and it looks like it's something you hand painted. They don't go down perfectly. There's always going to be a little bit of flaws, which is a part of their charm. I love distressing things, so for me, they're perfect. I started by cutting out sections and seeing how I wanted the design to be placed on the letter sorter. Make sure to cut off that little space that goes all the way around the edge of each page. If you don't, you're going to have a great big gap. At this point, I was so excited because I love paint inlays, and this one just had all of the fun colors in it. All the things. It had all the things. I did not like it. I did not like it one bit, Sam I am. Not because I necessarily did anything wrong. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe my expectations were just too high. I did zhuzh it up in the end, so that's why I'm finally making a video about it. But y'all, I did this 2 months ago. I used Debi's Design Diary DIY paint in the color Faded Burlap. I painted the entire surface with just 1 coat. Debi's paints are highly pigmented, so especially if you're painting on a light surface with a light color, you don't need to use a lot of paint. One of the really cool things about Debi's paint is you can use water to make it a little bit thinner, and that will help get rid of a lot of paint strokes. Because it's water soluble, you do have to seal Debi's paints. I don't know where the footage is from when I did this, but I did go through my videos that were published, and I found something I did the same day, and I'm just going to use that to show you how to apply a paint inlay. When I said I'm only putting 1 coat on it, that's technically true, but I had to add more paint to it because when you apply a paint inlay, you have to put it on wet paint. First, get your paint inlay wet. For that, I use a misting bottle I found on Amazon. I will leave a link for that in the description. Then lay the paint inlay sheet design side down onto the wet paint, ensuring good contact by smoothing it out with a damp cloth or brayer. I prefer to use a cloth. If I have a surface where there's nothing on the side or anything like a design or a frame or anything, I will use a brayer, but almost always I use a damp cloth. I push it down and press out any extra water. I try to get rid of any of the wrinkles. If you have a wrinkle, where that wrinkle is, the paint inlay will not apply to your wet paint, and you'll have little lines where those wrinkles are. You want to do a lot of dabbing. You can press it a little bit while you're smoothing it out, but you don't want to do that too much because you will smear your paint. Also, the longer you take, the more chances are that it's going to smear the paint. In the beginning, you have a lot of leeway. You can actually lift it up and restart if you need to. My point is, just work as quickly and gently as you can. When you're finished, let your project sit until the paint inlay is completely dry. You'll know that it's dry because you can no longer see through it, so it will look more like it did before you applied it. It might seem redundant, but now you need to get your paint inlay wet again. For this, I usually use a mister. Y'all, look at this bottle. That's why I use a mister. This bottle's horrible. I always think I'm going to use different words than other YouTubers use because sometimes I think they say them too much, and then I do the thing they're doing, and I'm like, oh, I say the same word. Because you know what? There is no other word to describe what this feels like than satisfying. So this is about where I realized I wasn't liking it. I thought, okay, I needed to do something to change it, and my mother recommended distressing it somehow, so I decided to go with dark wax. I should have first applied clear wax because y'all have taught me that. If you put clear wax on before you add dark wax, it's easier to take back that dark wax if you put too much on. You can also use it as an eraser better afterwards. But live and learn. I used the dark wax, Debi's dark wax, which I absolutely love, and I brushed it on, and then I wiped it back with a dry cloth. I did not like it so much, I took it to my bathroom and put it under the shower head and rinsed all of it off. And then I wanted to just cry a little bit. So I started again, and this time I let it dry a little bit more before I removed the wax, and that's where I stopped. I put it on a shelf and walked away. Far, far, far away. So I found it the other day and I decided we're going to do something with this and make it look better. I decided to add Debi's paint in the color Carnival Red, just around the trim to make it look like it was outlined. I added a little bit more red around the sides where it goes against the wall. I thought it just needed a little bit more so it truly looked like it was outlined. And you know what? I like it now. It's so much better. Because I previously used all of that wax, I don't need to seal most of it. I only need to seal the parts I added the red paint to. For that, I used Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover 2x Clear Matte. So tell me in the comments, what do you think about this? I still wasn't sure, but then my mother told me she did not hate it. Project number 3. Not sure where I got this from, but it was with a pile of stuff, and after I worked on this portion of it, it became number 897 of projects Heather started and then did not like, so she tossed it aside. Right here you can see I'm giving a little bit of Waverly wax treatment to it to make it look distressed. I made sure to get it down in those creases and crevices and nooks and crannies, but not so much where the apple is, because my plan would be to decoupage this and make a nice little wall hanging. I got this picture on Temu, and you do get what you pay for. Okay, for reals though, the picture isn't that bad. It's just that it's made out of some kind of plastic. It's not like photo paper and it's not thick like cardstock. It's just some in between. So I had seen another YouTuber use some sandpaper on the back of a poster to make it thinner so she could decoupage it. And I thought, well, I'll try that with this. Yeah, it worked, kind of, but it made like all of this plastic stuff come off. So anyway, I decided I would just glue it on with my Titebond Quick and Thick instead of decoupaging it. I do wish though I would have used my Gorilla Spray adhesive, but it got clogged up. Would have worked a lot better. One of my favorite thrift stores had all of these Hallmark ornament keepsakes in the boxes for $1.25 each. I bought all of them. Don't fret if you are a collector or you don't like it when people ruin things. I'm going to put them on with hot glue so they can just be popped right off. And with this, somehow I will attach the box to the back of the tray so that the box won't get ruined. That way a collector can still have everything all together if they wish. So first I needed a little bit of greenery just to set the the scene. I found this plastic stuff at Dollar Tree, and it has been the best to greenery. I can cut it and make little vignettes, or I can add it into big bouquets to fill in holes. I make nests with it, use it for grass, and I even make tiny little happy trees. I took some other greenery out of a different flower I got at Dollar Tree and just added a little bit of glue. I am usually very heavy-handed with my glue gun, as you'll see later, because I missed some strings. Usually I sit my sweet husband down with a pair of tweezers and he pulls all those out for me, but I forgot to do that this time, so sorry about the strings in the end pictures. I did another tree on the other side. I'm calling them trees because they're taller than my figurines, but they're smaller than the mushrooms. I don't know if these are fairies or what, but they're just little tiny compared to those big old mushrooms. And now that the base is ready, we can go ahead and start adding all of the fun stuff. This little clearance mushroom from Hobby Lobby fits perfectly right inside the frame on the ledge, so I decided to mute it to match the picture by dunking it right into my husband's wood stain. I let it sit for a little while and then I just gingerly wiped it off. I didn't press very hard because I want it to be pretty muted. On Amazon, I found oodles of baggies chock full of flower heads. You can get all one color with different shades like purple, or you can get every color under the rainbow all in one bag. You can also get one kind of flower head or a lot of different kinds. I'll leave a link in the description, but make sure to look around and find exactly what you want. And when you get to what you want, go look at the pictures and find the one that shows the different varieties and sizes. That's the most important part. I put these in different places on this vignette just to give it a little pop of light because it was so dark. There's a little tiny stem that goes onto a wire if you want to make like a real flower out of it, or a tall flower. Sometimes I leave that on if I want it to pop out more, but a lot of times I'll cut that off and just kind of mush the flower down to make it, part of the landscape. Sometimes I glue some of the petals down or maybe onto something else just to make them more open. This cute little feller pushing that wheelbarrow is the first piece we're going to place in our vignette. Now, he is a little too small to fit into that grass. He gets a little buried in it, so we need to elevate him. For that, I found a long, skinny leaf from another flower pick. I thought if I put it all the way inside of the frame, you wouldn't be able to see what it was. So I decided to put one of the ends over the edge and glue it there. And then I'll just put the other edge glued on the side of that frame. When I put him on there, I realized it kind of looks like he's careening off of a cliff and doesn't know what he's headed for because he's got a smile on his face, but we're just going to pretend that's not what's going on here. He's going over to the other fillers to give them some dirt what they can plant their flowers with. I put the mushroom in front of the guy digging the dirt because there's this little ladybug who's holding some seeds in a little baggie way above her head, and she's dropping them down so the other guy can plant those seeds. Now, we needed somebody to watch the whole affair, so I found this little bird that sadly broke off of a very expensive figurine I had for sale. And I popped her right on top of the whole thing, and then I used some more of that greenery just to tuck around her to look like she's on a little nest. I added a little more floral and decided not to put a sawtooth hanger on the back because I want it to be a shelf sitter, but if you want to hang it on your wall, you sure could do that. And here is our sweet little precious vignette. Project number 4. When I bought this little table, I thought it would go so well in our camper because it folds and you can put magazines in it and you can use it as storage and you can eat at it. So I put it out by the trailer and I forgot it. And it got rained on a lot. Then I brought it in the house this winter and used it in the house when I was recovering from shoulder surgery. And now it has hot glue all over it. Yep, that's my life. You'll often hear me refer to what we use as sandpaper, but technically it's not. It's called a sanding sheet and it's from Harbor Freight. It's made out of ceramic. I'm using 220 grit right now. My husband put some duct tape on the back of that so that it won't tear apart in my hands. We like this stuff way better than anything we found anywhere else. After I sanded it with some 400 grit paper, I dipped a clean towel into some Minwax wood finish in the color English Walnut, and I'm just wiping the whole top with that, and then I'll use another towel to wipe it back. I know farmhouse is like out of style in all these other places, or at least I hear it is, but it ain't out of style around here. I doubt it ever will be. So I am painting the base of this with crinoline by Debi's Design Diary. I sell Debi's paint products in my booth in upstate South Carolina. If you aren't able to shop locally with me and you want to mail order, you can use a link I have provided in the description below. I don't personally do mail order, but Debi made that link just for my viewers so they can purchase from her and she will give me a small compensation without raising your price. When y'all purchase from there, I so appreciate it, and I appreciate Debi for providing the link as well. I gave the base 2 coats, letting the first one dry before I added the second one. When the second one was dry, I started sanding with regular sandpaper. I think it was a pretty low grit. It might have been 100, and I went over all of the edges of the base to make it look even more farmhousey. So there, you people who think farmhouse is out of style. So there. Don't forget, clay base paints have to be sealed, so for that I used Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover 2 times in matte clear. When the top had dried, I used Minwax Wipe On Poly, and then, seeing what a good job I did, my sweet husband took over. Oh boy. He's using 400 grit paper to knock down just the parts where I didn't sand it very well. Then he'll do the poly again, he'll let it dry and do another coat. In Heatherland, one mistake is never enough, so of course I did more. Y'all, I thought I turned off my camera. I turned it on, filmed everything getting ready to put the transfers on the table. I reached up to turn on my camera and realized I had turned it off. So I got this one picture. For the record, it was Saint Germain, and it was fabulous. I did such a good job teaching y'all how to layer. I'm so sorry you missed that, but behold, this table is gorgeous. Project number 5. From the moment my friend Robin gave me this blue vase, I thought of Wedgwood, so of course I had to make something like this. I used Iron Orchid Designs Primitive Mold with air dry clay, also from IOD, and cast several different designs from the same mold. A lot of people use cornstarch in their molds to help the clay release, but I have found that I don't need to after the first time or two. I think it's because I don't get my molds clean enough, and maybe that sounds kind of gross, but I really do try. I think there's just a little bit of cornstarch residue left, so that each time I use it, a little bit more comes out. Eventually I add a little bit more cornstarch, but I probably use them 5 to 8 times without adding any more at all. IOD has a little micro rim around every design, and it kind of works like a knife, so when you pull your finger across it, it cuts off all the extra clay. Then I just use my finger to rub it smooth. You can make one design at a time, but I usually make a whole bunch with the same mold and then pull them out at the same time. When I turn over the mold and pull it back, if any of the clay doesn't release on its own, I just use my fingertip to get it started, and that with gravity, usually it just slides right out. If it doesn't work, you can take your mold and kind of wiggle it back and forth. I don't know, you take each corner and turn it different directions, and you can loosen it that way as well. After I was finished casting all my designs, I put them together on the vase and just kind of messed with the whole entire look and figured out what I wanted where. When I figured out how I wanted the design to look, I started gluing everything on with my Titebond Quick and Thick. First, I used a brush to make it go all the way around everything, but when I put this first piece down, some of the glue came out from underneath it. And when you do something like this vase, you want to make very certain the glue doesn't come out from underneath it, because we're not doing anything else to it. We're not going to distress it, we're not painting, nothing else is happening, so that glue is going to be super noticeable. I cleaned it up with a wet brush, and then I put a little, I twisted a towel and got that pointy end down there and cleaned it that way. I started using my finger to just kind of pull back the glue from the edges, and that worked with the rest of them. I usually tape my molds so they won't slide around the vase, but because this had ridges, I just laid it down and they didn't slide past those ridges. But keep that in mind, and if you need to tape your molds down, just do it super lightly and use lots of tape, and I usually use blue painter's tape for that. I don't think this needed to be sealed, but I did spray the clay with Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover in clear gloss because I wanted it to be shiny like the rest of the vase. And I am so pleased with how this turned out. It's just lovely. I just love making these videos, and knowing that people are watching them makes it so much better. I want to welcome everyone who is new and thank those of you who have come back again. In my next video, I have a special guest, and y'all are going to want to see this. We had so much fun. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, I hope you are blessed. Bye.